Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Today, I want to talk to you about the federal funds rate and the large rate increase that the Fed decided to impose this last Wednesday. The Federal Reserve decided that they wanted to increase the federal funds rate by 0.75%, and that was a very large rate hike. But what does that mean for us? What's the next plan for the Fed, and what do they see in the future? Well, let's get into it. So, what does that mean for us? Well, the Federal Reserve has decided to raise the federal funds rate, which I'm going to call interest rate from now on, to the 3.25%. Why is this? Well, they haven't really been seeing any progress with their inflationary targets. Yeah, they want to get down to around 2%. They haven't really seen any movement on that. August was another bad CPI report where inflation definitely was higher than what was expected. So, what does the Fed do to stop that? Well, they're raising rates. What are they hoping this will accomplish? They're hoping that this will maybe soften the job market and make it so unemployment goes up just a little bit. And they're also hoping that this will stop consumer debt and maybe make it harder for people to get loans and be able to pay them off. So, if the interest rate's higher, it's obviously going to be more expensive per month to make that payment. And that's what a lot of people base their monthly budget on is what payment can they afford for what they're buying. Another thing that's really important to think about with the Fed is they're really worried about what is going to happen in the future. So, where is this rate leading us and where do we see it being in the future? Well, they give us some really good ideas in their economic projections outlook. The economic projections report is linked in the description below, so make sure you check that out. We want you to form your own opinions and kind of read the report for yourself so you really know what's going on, but I'm going to tell you what I saw and what my opinions are. So, based on what I'm seeing, looks like the Federal Reserve really wants to raise rates somewhere between 4 and 4.75%. Where that'll end up at, I don't know, but I think the consensus right now is about 4.25%, maybe 4, and I'd say maybe some people are like, man, maybe they'll raise it really high in 4.5. But the main thing to pay attention to here is they're not lowering these rates anytime soon. If you look at the dot plot within that report, you're going to see that they're planning to keep these rate hikes well into 2023, maybe bring them down a little bit in 24. And then when you look at the longer term outlook, you'll see that they want to have it right around 2%. What are they trying to do though with this high federal funds rate? Well, they want to see unemployment come up a little bit. Based on my understanding of the report, it looks like about 4.4% is where they want the unemployment rate to be. I personally think that's a little high, but hey, that's where they want to see it. Another thing they want is they want inflation to come down. Obviously, this is a key point for them. They want it to be right around 2%. But they think they're going to have to keep these federal funds rates high for a prolonged period of time in order to get that. Lastly, I think they're waiting to see what the housing market does. Yeah, the federal funds rate does not tie directly to what mortgage rates are, but it does affect the 10-year bond rate, which is how we get mortgage rates. So, something really important to look at and take into consideration. So let's just say, for instance, that the Federal Reserve really does want this rate to stay around 4.25, 4.5%. Well, what does that mean? Are we going to have a hard landing now? Well, based on what Jerome Powell said during his press conference, sounds like he doesn't really know, which, if that tells me anything, that means that we probably are going to have a hard landing. So, what does this mean for you? What does this mean for me? What does this mean for our communities? Well, I think this means that we're going to see a lot higher unemployment rate, which unfortunately is what the Fed wants. They want to see unemployment rise. They want it to be harder for people to spend money. They want it to be a little bit tighter. I really think that they're trying to make sure that people aren't going out and just spending crazy amounts of money right now. Yeah, I know that's probably what they want all the time, but really to get this inflation back down to 2%, they're going to have to work at that. Another thing is keeping it at this high. I don't know if that's really going to fix the problem. If you listen to his speech, he talks about the 3, 6, and 12-month lagging inflation, and that's been around 4.5%. Let me ask you something. If you want to stop something from happening, do you get in front of it? Do you kind of ride alongside it? Or do you ride behind it? Well, right now, the Fed's riding behind inflation. I think if they raise it to about 4.25 to 4.5%, they're going to be riding with inflation. I don't really think it's going to help it. I think it's kind of just going to make it go sideways. But if they would get on top of it, get to that 4.75, 4.5%, that way they're on top of inflation where the federal funds rate is more than what the 12-month lagging is. I really think they have a strong chance of actually stopping inflation and getting this out. Is this going to cause some pain? Yeah, definitely. But I think that's what we have to do in order to get inflation leveled out. Now, what does that have for the housing market? What's going to happen there? How are we going to proceed with that? Well, you need to look at what the rates are in your area and for your lending capabilities and decide if you want to do that. You can check out another video on my channel about mortgage rates and what the housing market's like, so feel free to check it out in your free time. Finally, I want to talk about if I think the Fed can actually fix this issue. And what is the necessary issue I'm talking about? Yeah, of course, inflation is a key topic, but are they going to be able to fix this once they get it started? As most of you are probably thinking about, when you get an economic boom or bust, it's hard to get out of that cycle. Yeah, we can think about 2020 and what the stock market did there and the small recession we had, but was that hard to get out of? No, because they turned on the money printers. But now that they actually are having to raise rates, they're having to decrease money supply, they're having to do all of this quantitative tightening, I think it's going to be really hard to get it stopped. And that's because the Fed is constantly looking at the past. They're constantly looking at data from months behind. And they're not necessarily proactively trying to fix things. If they were really trying to proactively fix things, they would have fixed the inflation rate that we're currently having an issue with. They constantly told us it was transitory. It was transitory inflation. Everybody needs to calm down. This isn't a big deal. No worries. As we found out, that wasn't really true because they're always looking in the past. They're not looking in the future. So can they fix this issue? Can they fix inflation, unemployment, whatever issue is going to come up? Yeah, I think they probably can. But I think it's going to cause a lot of pain in the market, jobs, and honestly, in people's livelihoods. So make sure you're very cautious. Make sure you're doing your due diligence on what your family can afford, what's best for them, and keeping a keen eye out for when you see the market going down, up, and just the economy in general. So make sure you're keeping an eye out for that. So there we have it, guys. What do you guys think? Does the Federal Reserve really have this under control? Do you think they need to get above the 4.5% rate for the federal funds rate in order to beat inflation and to start to knock it down a little bit? Do you think that the housing market is going to get worse, better? Do you think anything's going to change in that? Well, feel free to leave a comment below so we know what you guys are thinking. Also, be sure to like, subscribe, and I'll catch you in the next one.